Welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series. I am really excited to have the author of a moving, heart-rending, and really significant novel as my guest today. The title of the novel is No Heaven for Good Boys, and the author is my guest today. Now, No Heaven for Good Boys was set in Senegal, West Africa. It tells the story of a young boy, Ibrahima, who is a Talib, who is trying to survive in Dakar, Senegal, after he was sent there to live with a Marabout. Now, before we meet the author of this spellbinding novel, please click on your subscription and notification buttons. Thank you. Keisha Bush was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, in the US. She received her MFA in creative writing from the New School, where she was a Regio Honors Teaching Fellow and recipient of the NSPE Dean's Scholarship. After a career in corporate finance and international development that took her to live in Dakar, Senegal, she decided to focus full time on her writing. She now lives in East Harlem. But before we meet Keisha, Gabriella will tell us a bit about the novel, No Heaven for Good Boys.
Hello everyone, you're welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series. My name is Gabriella. Now, No Heaven for Good Boys is definitely a book that tugs at your heartstrings. It's literally impossible to read the book without shedding a tear or two. Keisha brings the plight of Talibés to light in such a unique way. The reader is able to see really young children struggle with a system that has failed them. The adult meant to protect them has turned out to be someone they need protection from. Hope comes across very strongly as well. Ibrahima, who is surrounded by so much pain and uncertainty, still holds on to hope and believes that he can make something of his life. At different points during the book, we see him hint at becoming something more than a Talibé. Keisha has been able to discuss an incredibly sensitive matter in such a profound way that is sure to get conversations started. No Heaven for Good Boys is a definite must-read for lovers of powerful stories that draw attention to issues in society. It's available on Amazon, Barnes& Noble, Audible, and other select stores.
Thank you, Gabriella. Hi, Keisha. Welcome to the Sankofa Pan-African series. I have been really excited and looking forward to, talking to you about this your awesome novel, because the theme is one that resonates with me in so many ways. I'm passionate about education for young people, and I even actually run two schools in Lagos, Nigeria, for children from homes from low income families, children at the very bottom of the economic pyramid. And unfortunately, this tradition of sending children out to beg is not unique to Senegal. We actually have it in Nigeria too. They're called the Almajiri. So it's really sad. It's really sad. So please tell us more about Talibé and what drew you to write this novel about
Okay. I am from Boston, Massachusetts, and I had always wanted to go to Africa, like to the continent. And I found an opportunity to be a volunteer and ended up coming over. And I later found work teaching English when I was in Dakar, Senegal. And I'd seen these little boys around. They have a can, just a t-shirt on, no shoes, no other clothing, and street kids. But I started asking questions because they would ask me for money, and if I had it, I gave it to them. And my expat friends from the US had their opinions. My neighbors, who were very traditional and older, had their opinions, which was, this is tradition, that's what boys do. And then I asked my younger Senegalese friends who had either lived abroad or, we were just friends, and I asked them about it. And they were like, yeah, this is a problem. But they explained more because I was just like, who are these children? Are they
Mm,
orphans?
mm,
And the Talibé in Senegal are technically not orphans. They have parents, and it's their parents that send them to this teacher, to a
mhm,
Dara, which is a school of the Quran, right? And they're supposed to learn the Quran. And the goal is to memorize the Quran within and it usually takes about 3 to 5 years. But instead of really teaching the children, they're forced to beg. And these kids are Talibé for 10 years,
mm,
and it starts, at 5. They could be as young as 5, but I
mm,
saw and interacted with children who were 3 years old.
mm.
And so it broke my heart. And I wasn't a writer when I was living in Senegal. I never even thought I could be a writer.
Wow.
Okay.
You must have been really moved by their
Yes.
plight.
Yes. And when I returned to the US in 2008, um, I was working, but then decided to change careers, to try
Mm,
and change careers and pursue my love of writing. And in 2010, the story of the Talibé just came forward. I never even intended to write about them, but they were
mm,
in my heart.
mm,
And when I started writing, their story came forward. And to be honest, they're the ones who helped me with my career, because I would have given up writing had it not been for the Talibé and wanting to tell their story, and then tell their story on a platform that could bring other people in, bring readers in. They don't have the ability to tell their story to the world. So, and I saw writing and fiction as a vehicle to tell this nonfiction story, to reach greater audiences
mm.
for them.
And the one thing that comes across with your stories is the heart, is that this was a story that actually touched your heart and that
Mhm.
you wanted told in a way, like you said, that would draw people in and keep it in their consciousness, not just read and put down and okay, business as usual. It touches you, it's going to stay with you, and hopefully it's going to compel people,
Yeah.
who read it, to find ways, to take some kind of action. I love it.
Absolutely. And for me, one of the greatest experiences that I've had, the book released in January, so January 26, 2001. And one of the greatest experiences that I've been having are readers who love the two main characters, which is Ibrahima and Etienne,
Yes.
who love them as much as I do. Because instead of um, writing myself into the story, right? There is no American savior in this book. And that is something that's very different.
Yes.
The characters are African,
Yes.
right? I'm representing my people, okay?
I love that about it.
And they're telling their own story. I am the writer, I'm the vehicle. I'm the vehicle to write the story, but the story is not about me. The story is not about having some Western savior. And Etienne and Ibrahima, and Ibrahim is the protagonist, but Etienne is his cousin.
Yeah.
They represent all of these children, because you can't write about 100,000 kids and really pull people in to really connect. But those two boys represent all of the Talibé and all vulnerable children. Because we're a global village and we need to care about all children.
Thank you. Thank you. Because, and so these two brilliantly, drawn out characters, so they are like an amalgamation of children you met, or were there maybe one or two that actually kind of
Yeah,
came alive in your novel?
So there were two children that I only had met once, but one was an older, I could tell they were brothers and that they were new Talibé. And the little one was frightened of me. And I bought them egg sandwiches, and the older boy, who might have been like 8, and the little boy had to be at least 3 or 4, maybe 4. He was being the 8-year-old was being the brave one, you know? And I bought them egg sandwiches, and then we went to a small boutique, like a small little store, to get them something to drink. And my heart broke because I could tell that they were new Talibé and they were by themselves. They weren't with a bigger cluster because there's so much fighting that goes on amongst the boys. But I got to know clusters of the children. I remember one time 4 Talibé, one was crying. And I said, hey, and this is in French, you know, my broken French. And I go, hey, what's going on? And he's like, you know, that one threw sand in his eyes. And that hurts, you know. So I bought a bottle of water and I poured it on it. And the boutique owner's like, you just bought bottled water to pour on a Talibé's
eyes? Can you imagine?
Right? And then I remember telling them, and not, you know, scolding in a loving way. I said, hey, you all are brothers. And you have to look out for each other. So the one who threw the sand, I'm like, okay, maybe he did something, you know, that made you mad. But you can't do that to your brother. And he was like, yeah, you know, like he was like, yeah, you're right. And so I had these different interactions. I don't write it in the book, but I was also, for another cluster of boys, I was their banana girl.
No.
I was. And I took that role and I was proud of it. Whenever I saw them and they saw me, I would have like 13 boys rush me and they would be yelling, banana, 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 because I would buy them bananas, you know? It's filling. I can buy 10 boys, 13 boys. I was kind of broke at the time, but like, they just filled my heart. And I have all of these different little experiences with them that are interwoven in the book in different ways.
Really, really awesome. So I'm going to have you read an excerpt from the book. But before you do, can you just give us some kind of background to the excerpt you're reading so that it makes a bit of sense without giving away the story? I want all our readers to go out and get their copy of No Heaven for Good Boys.
Absolutely.
It's a very important book. I really want as many people out there to go out and get their copy. So don't give away the story.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to read from chapter 5. And what happens in this section is the story is told from the point of view of Ibrahima. So we get this, you get the life of being a Talibé. But the other thread in the book is that of his mother's voice and his family. And she wants her son back. But it's very difficult to get your child back because of the way the tradition sits within the culture. And what I do in the book is that I actually introduce Ibrahima, and then at some point we go see his mom. We go to his mother's point of view, and we get to understand how Ibrahima became a Talibé.
Okay.
And so this is the beginning, not the beginning of the book, but how Ibrahima even ends up, being a Talibé.
Good.
And he was at the beach, just a little extra. He was at the beach with his siblings, and they get separated. And this is him realizing he just got separated. All right. A melange of orange, yellow, and purple hues reflect off big cumulus clouds as the sun rests on the horizon. The small crab Ibrahima has been toying with turns to him, its claws set to attack. He calls out to Musa to come see, but gets no response. He looks up. His friend is nowhere in sight. When he looks back down, the crab is gone. He could hear them all talking just a while ago off the distance, but all that fills his ears now is the incoming tide. He stands up to see if Musa is crouching down somewhere, but the beach is empty. The path in front of the rocks and the dune he had crossed earlier is now completely swallowed up by the sea. He is the only one there.
Mhm.
Musa, nothing. Aisha, silence. Fatu, Binta. The tide is coming in fast. He looks up at the sky and frowns. His body begins to sweat even as the cool ocean breeze washes over him. Being on the beach at night brings bad luck, and it's getting dark. The beach is the only place evil spirits can sneak onto land without being seen. They can walk right along beside you without you even knowing it, his father once told him. Ibrahima looks to his left. The dune looms high above him. He looks to his right. The coast stretches on for what seems like eternity. If he goes in that direction, he would be walking farther away from his village, and he's never been down that end of the beach before. In front of him lies the rocky wall that encases the coast. The tide slaps at the back of his ankles. He walks forward and tries to climb the dune, but his feet sink into the soft sand and he slides down the steep incline. Trying again, he drops down to his knees in an attempt to crawl, but he ends up face down, clutching handfuls of soft earth. He lies sprawled out on his stomach in defeat.
Mm.
What are you doing? A voice rings out through the noise of the crashing waves. Ibrahima rolls over to find a man standing behind him. He had just looked down the coast and hadn't seen anyone before. Didn't you hear me? The man shifts his weight. Answer up, boy. Ibrahima stands and looks up at the man wearing a black bubu, his head wrapped in a matching turban. I'm trying to get back home. Where do you live? Ibrahima points towards the dune. Come with me. I'll show you the way back. The man turns to head down the coast away from the village. Ibrahima doesn't move. He doesn't trust the stranger. If you stay here, the tide will gobble you up and you live out the rest of your life as a fish, running from the fisherman who wants to eat you.
Mhm.
The swelling tide, angry and aggressive, crashes against Ibrahima's legs. He looks toward the dune one more time, hoping to see Musa or his sisters, but he knows they are gone, so then turns and follows the man down the beach. What's your name? The man asks. Ibrahima. How old are you? 6. Ibrahima holds his hand up, fingers spread wide. That's a good age. They walk for what feels like a long time before reaching a set of deteriorating cement steps leading to the top of the cliff. Be careful, the stranger says, standing aside for Ibrahima to ascend first. Ibrahima uses both hands to climb the tall stairs, relieved to see the crest of roofs in the distance. The two of them walk toward the unfamiliar small quiet village, tin-roofed shanties to the main road. I'm sure your family must be worried about you by now. Let's find a taxi to get you back faster, huh? The man hails a horse-drawn wagon. He lifts Ibrahima onto the back and then hoists himself up. Ibrahima's body balances to the rhythm of the horse trotting against the dirt road, the smell of manure lingering from the day's errands. Hay scratches at the backs of his legs. He looks up at the man, but with the evening settling in, he can only make out the silhouette of a face. His eyelids hang heavy, but are shocked open with every rock the wagon stumbles over. Ibrahima jumps to attention at the sight of the mosque his family attends. I live here! The man shouts to the driver to stop. Once his feet are planted firmly back on the ground, Ibrahima runs down the sandy path all the way to his house. Barreling through the front door, he's greeted by a chorus of relieved voices. Ibrahima, alhamdulillah. My baby, where have you been? His mother exclaims. Where did you run off to? His sisters ask over one another. We thought you were with us. Musa said you were together, and then when he looked up, you were gone. Don't do that again. The water got really high. I couldn't get to you, Ibrahima says, on the verge of tears. Fatu, don't yell at your brother. You should have kept a closer eye on him. The one thing I ask you to do, just one thing. Watch your brother. But Mama, I was watching him, Fatu says with a pout. Maimuna rushes over to Ibrahima and scoops him up into her arms before he can respond. Binta wraps her arms around him and their mother. Aisha joins in, roping in a begrudging Fatu. I was so frightened. I thought you had drowned, Binta exclaims ever the drama queen. Don't talk like that, Binta, Maimuna says. Idrissa walks into the house then, and his face lights up at the scene before him. The stranger from the beach trails behind. Ibrahima, Papa, Ibrahima says, reaching out to his father from the hive of women enveloping him. That's who brings me home, Ibrahima says, pointing to the man behind his father. Your father was searching all over for you, my baby, Maimuna says. Well, we have this gentleman to thank, Idrissa says. Oh, monsieur, thank you. We owe you everything we have for bringing back our only son to us. Please join us for dinner. It's the least we can do. Fatu, my love, get our guest something to drink, quick. Fatu sighs and exits the room. Maimuna sets Ibrahima down and the family ushers the stranger into the living room, offering him the best chair in the room. Fatu brings a cup of bisap and sets it on the coffee table in front of their guests, chastened. Ibrahima, my baby, come to Mama so we can get you into clean clothes before dinner. My kind sir, what is your name? Idrissa asks as Maimuna leads Ibrahima by the hand to go bathe. Ibrahima looks up at the stranger in the light as he passes. The man's face is greasy with sweat, his eyes cloudy and dull. Marabou Ahmed, he says with a quiet smile. Ibrahima follows his mother out of the living room.
This discussion will be continued in the next episode. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the Sankofa Pan-African series channel. Like our videos and please share them with your contacts.